Now that I've explained whose message it is and what's going on, I'm going to use that quote that I first had on my notes. I'm going to start a new paragraph. I don't think I'll bother with subheadings. I think I'll just write it as a piece, like a report, to inform. So I'm going to put this in inverted commas. This is the biggest, and I'm going to put it in capital letters, even though we wouldn't really. It really makes a point. This is the biggest challenge of our times. Okay, this is it now. My reader will be going, well, what is? Well, I'm going to say Sir David. I'm not going to bother with Attenborough. Sir David is very clear. Well, that is a very clear statement, isn't it? But what is he clear about? Okay. If humans and the natural world are to live together, there needs to be a change in how we behave. How am I going to put that? So in order for both humans and nature to live together, how about to exist? That's shorter. It is in order for both humans and nature to exist and thrive, I'm going to use that word again, that thrive on Earth, there needs to be a change. There needs to be a change. In what? In human behaviour. I need to explain that a little bit more. So I'm going to start a new paragraph and explain what I've just said. So I'm going to use that statistic 20,000 years ago. 20,000 years ago, well, what were there? There were only 1 million people. Okay. 20,000 years ago, it's only 1 million people. Yeah. And actually, who used the Earth's resources and how did they use them? They used them well. Okay. I've added a little bit of extra information there, and I've put a relative pronoun in as well. 20,000 years ago, there were only 1 million people who used the Earth's resources well. Now, however, there's a good connective word, however, it's no longer the case now, is it? However, as human beings, let's describe them slightly differently. As human beings, let's say they got smarter, they problem solved. I need a word for that. How about developed? Now, developed could mean all those things, couldn't it? As human beings developed, what happened? They made more demands. Now, when I say more demands, I mean probably they wanted more food, there were more of them, and they used different ways of getting what they wanted. They made more demands on what? Well, on the environment. If I say environment, I'm talking about the land, the plants, all that sort of thing. What else happened? Well, if I look at my notes, there's more of them. So I'm just going to put also, I'm adding another point here, also, so I'm connecting it to this fact, also the population grew. I'll keep that sentence short. Oops, the population grew. So we've got two things. There were only 1 million people who had the resources, but we got cleverer and made more demands, and the population grew. Right. If I look at my notes here, I've underlined certain things, and I think this is really, really important. as we grew and as we overcome problems, we altered the Earth's entire surface. So I'm just going to write that down, okay? As people, rather than we, we're going to leave we, I, and you out a little bit. We'll just use the word people. People altered the Earth's surface. Oh, I'll put the entire surface. Let's put entire. I'll fit that in just there. Entire surface. Let's use that actual phrase. So much so. Left a space there. So much so that scientists call this time, I'm going to put it in quotes here, inverted commas, the age of humans. And I'm going to put capital letters here because it's a banner, it's a title, the age of humans. And really, we are out, they are out of balance. Humans are out of balance, perhaps. Humans are out of balance with nature. I think that's what David actually said, didn't he? With nature. Oh my word, that's quite a lot of writing. Have a pause. See if you can add a little bit more to your argument, a bit like I've done. And then come back to my writing and we'll see how we end this. I'm going to carry on now and I'm going to try and wrap this argument up, but I need to mention some facts to go with it. And I've made some notes on the transcript that you've got too, and I need to say exactly what the problem is, linking this word biodiversity, which kind of means life and different forms of it is the single biggest problem that we face. So I'm going to put the problem, I'm going to say who says the problem, which Sir David explains, and he explains it clearly. There's an extra bit of information, it's a relative clause. The problem, which Sir David explains clearly, is our planet is becoming less wild. Now I've got that from the transcript. There's one underlying big issue, our planet is becoming less wild. So I've put it in my language. The problem, which Sir David explains clearly, is our planet is becoming less wild. Okay, let's pick a fact. I quite like this fact here. So I'm literally going to copy it down. In the last 50 years, the populations of wild animals have reduced by 60%. Gosh, that's nearly 2/3. That's a lot. And I also like this one here. There's very little wild left, so I'm going to add that on here. There's very little wild left. Okay. The problem, which Sir David explains clearly, is our planet is becoming less wild. In the last 50 years, the populations of wild animals have reduced by 60%. There's very little wild left. Now, I want to bring in this word biodiversity. And we need it. Without biodiversity, our world doesn't work. So I'm going to write that down. Without biodiversity, so different types of life, without biodiversity, our world doesn't work. It doesn't work well, does it? Okay, so I need to say that it really is up to everybody to get together. If I look at these notes here, I can say our planet needs wild spaces. Everyone is a component of the global machine. I don't like the word component, so I'm going to say there are many animals that are needed in some way. There's lots of different parts to the world. Each is important. Oh, why don't I just write that? I'm actually going to quote my notes in my sentences. There's lots of different parts to the world. Just semicolon, because I'm going to add extra information. Each is important. I'm going to keep that really short. So when I say lots of different parts, I'm talking about the biodiversity, lots of different life. Now, we need to say that if we don't have it, there's a big problem. And we need the world to be stable. I think that fact will come after here. There's lots of different parts to the world. Each is important. Biodiversity means stability. Now that means the world is stable. One part of it, like human beings, doesn't overrun the other part of it. So that will sort that part out. Now, we could write this part here. We could include this to say if we don't have this, this is what will happen. If this can't happen, if this doesn't happen, comma, the world, let me think, if this doesn't happen, I know we are less able, I want to leave out people are less able to provide for their needs. So all I'm doing, children, is copying out these bits here, but changing some of the pronouns here. People are less able to provide for their needs, comma, I'm going to use less able 3 times. Less able to keep the weather dependable, which means keeping the weather stable. Less able to, let me put this bit here, to cope with what my handwriting's going all over the place now, do you notice that? To cope with what humans are doing to it. Phew, that's a lot of facts. I've written stacks. I really don't expect you to write this much, but if you wish to, you can do. That's the beauty with informing. You can give as much or as little as you can. I'm going to end it with that question. I really, really like that. I'm going to have it as a separate sentence on a separate line. Can we rewild the world? That's a question, so I'm going to put a question mark here. Have a go now yourself. See if you can finish off your writing, and I really look forward to reading it on Purple Mash. Good luck.